Kanvar and Dharanidhar flew low across the snowy ground so that Kanvar could see the path the Tuniat's sleds had left in the snow. If they'd fled from the great white dragon leaving Kumar to fight it, then their tracks should lead back to him. To the right, waves hissed against hot black rocks, sending up showers of steam. That's strange, Dharanidhar thought to Kanvar. This land is supposed to be cold, why are the rocks hot? I don't know, Kanvar said. I don't like this. Dharanidhar snorted. Your father picked the most miserable out-of-the-way place in the whole world to send your grandfather, and Amar prides himself on being such a nice guy. Kanvar couldn't argue with that. From what he'd seen of the Great North, he wondered why anyone would want to live there, and how they could ever survive if they did. A little while later, the tracks they'd been following ended at a site where the snow had been trampled down in a wide circle. Looks like the tribe camped here, Kanvar said. But there are no sled tracks leading up to the campsite, just the ones we've been following that left it. Dharanidhar hovered over the site. They came in from the east, still following the shoreline, he said. But there must have been a big snowstorm, because the tracks leading up to this site are covered. Dharanidhar continued eastward above a glacier that was rife with cracks and fissures. I don't know how they could have crossed here, Kanvar said. A thunderous cracking sound filled the air, and a giant chunk of ice broke off from the glacier and splashed down into the frothy waves. Kanvar gasped at the wondrous beauty and terrifying power of the falling ice. It must not have been like this before the snowstorm, Dharanidhar said. It's the only thing that makes sense. Water, ice, snow, these things can change the landscape quickly. He kept flying in a straight line, but a few wing flaps farther they came to a giant crevice in the ice. A horrible churning growl came from water rushing along deep in the crevice. Not a good sign, Dharanidhar rumbled. This had to have opened up after the tribe passed this way. That would explain why Kumar and Denali hadn't caught up with them. Kanvar's gut twisted. There had only been the great white dragon in his dreams, not blizzards, steaming water, and giant cracks in the ground. His grandfather wouldn't have survived to fall into that crevice. I thought we agreed that Kumar is still alive, and we would find him, Dharanidhar said, sensing Kanvar's renewed doubt. I don't know, Kanvar said, gripping the leather straps that held him on Dar's neck. I just don't know. Well, I do, Dharanidhar answered. And I intend to keep on looking. When he came to the crevice, he must have turned inland. We'll go that way. Dharanidhar swept inland where a cone-shaped mountain hung against the horizon, smoke billowing from its top. Denali's frozen fingers shook on the spear. The snow wolves closed in around him and Kumar. Saliva dripped from their sharp teeth and froze as it fell to the ground only feet away. Growls rose from their throats. The mountain growled back in answer, and the ground shook. Denali spread his feet wider to keep his balance on the unstable ground. With his broken leg, Kumar could not adjust for the unexpected movement. The quaking knocked him off his feet, and the wolves lunged. Denali waited until the wolf that came at him was right on top of him, then he thrust the spear into the wolf's chest. The giant wolf's weight against the spear forced Denali to the ground. The wolf landed on top of him with the spear in its heart. Frost let out a high-pitched scream that shattered bits of ice off the cliff. A white light flashed so bright, Denali could see the bones through the skin and muscle of the wolf on top of him. Fortunately, the wolf's body had blocked his eyes from the full impact of the light. A sharp crackling sound filled the air. Denali crawled out from under the wolf and pulled his spear free. He found Frost beside him, and a wolf with its jaws ready to close on her. The impact would have snapped Frost's neck, but the wolf was frozen in its position, encased in ice. Frost flapped over to Kumar. When he'd fallen, the wolves had grabbed him and dragged him away from the cliff. One wolf lay dead with the hunting knife in its chest, but Kumar's arms had been savaged by the other wolves. Denali rushed over to him. He lay unmoving in the snow, his eyes closed. Frost's light flash had blinded the remaining wolves and they had retreated a few yards. But they had not run far. They growled with renewed fury. They could smell blood and knew their prey was right in front of them. Only the slightest wisp of frosty air escaped from between Kumar's lips. Denali's heart turned to ice. His father had fallen unconscious and left Denali to face the remaining wolves alone. Frost let out a keening wail and licked at the wolf bites on Kumar's arms. The remaining wolves circled. Denali had moved away from the cliff and had nothing to protect his back. He gripped his spear and turned with the wolves, trying to see all around him at the same time. They had him now, and they knew it. They licked their lips and pressed closer. A wave of sudden anger from the baby dragon blasted away Denali's fear. She spread her wings and positioned herself back to back with him. A strong impression came to Denali's mind that seemed to say, "You are not alone." Frost's anger gave him courage. He set his spear and waited for the next attack. The remaining wolves leapt forward. Eyes, a snap impression came from Frost. Denali squeezed his eyes closed and swung the spear, trying to ward off the wolves attacking him. Frost flashed and breathed a burst of frozen air at the wolves in front of her. A crackling sound filled the air and the wolves froze to ice. A giant white monster knocked Denali to the ground and tried to tear Denali's throat out. Denali blocked its mouth with the haft of the spear, straining to keep the wolf's head away from him. The wolf snapped its mouth closed, shattering the spear's haft. "Close your eyes," Frost warned him. Denali closed his eyes and a satisfying crackling sound filled the air as Frost froze another wolf. Denali opened his eyes, jumped up, and grabbed Kumar's hunting knife. Another wolf lunged at him, but Frost jumped on its head while Denali thrust the hunting knife into the wolf. The wolf went down. Denali turned, looking for his next opponent. The snow in front of the cliffs was littered with wolf bodies and frozen wolf statues. "I don't believe it," Denali said, looking out across the battlefield. Nothing moved except for the dead wolves' fur ruffled by the wind. "We did it." Frost burbled happily, then left Denali and flapped back over to Kumar. Denali hurried over to his father. Kumar remained unconscious, his head swollen, though the wolf bites on his arms had healed over from Frost licking. Frost laid her head across Kumar's chest and whined. The ground shook again. A deafening rumble filled the air. Just above Denali and Frost, the entire side of the mountain collapsed in on itself and then blew outward in a giant explosion of superheated gases, ice, steam, and ash.